Welcome back to another episode of VAMO Radio. I'm here today with the comedian Marc Gordon. Hey, Marc, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm awesome. One, I'm trying my best not to laugh because you're hilarious. So, Marc, I'm really glad to have you again on the show. I know we had an interview earlier in our time, maybe like a year or so ago, but now it's more of an update to see, more about what you've been doing now. I know you've been doing a lot of great, amazing things. So, to start, of course, COVID-19 is still in the midst of our pandemic. So I want to know, like, how has that affected your video shooting? You do a lot of content creating and everything. So what has that been a positive effect on you?
Well, first, thanks for having me back. I can't believe it's been a year, although it seems like it's been like 20 years after the year that we're having.
Yeah.
Yeah, dealing with COVID, I've actually used this time to just pump as much content as possible. And that's kind of like my coping mechanism. So as you guys can see, I have this green wall back here, and this is kind of like my happy place. That's where I come and make all these videos, and I love shooting on the green screen because I can add backdrops and do like really fun stuff. So early on, I made a song called Social Distancing, where we were social distance, and I kind of shot it in kind of 90s R&B vibe, where I had like toilet paper rolls on me, and I was trying to like meet up with this one girl, and she was in this house, and I had like, hey, I got toilet paper and hand sanitizer, what's up? So it was like, so I kind of like was like trying to embrace it, and for me it was like everyone was so on edge, and we all were. So I'm like, we got to drop some comedy in this. So I didn't really know how to edit, and I learned how to do that. And once I kind of got that underway, I was just like, let's go. Let's just make as many videos as possible. I think when I talked to you last, I might have had like one or two, and now I probably have like 80 or 90 or so out.
Wow. That's fantastic. I'm really glad that you've been able to continue working, especially perfecting your craft. And you said you even learned how to edit. So it's awesome. Instead of like stopping during this or pandemic and letting things stop your way or your flow. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I try to like watch some little videos and just like learn something new. And I also learned how to like make music, which I didn't know how to do before either. So that part has actually been fun. And I just joined a virtual improv group.
Really?
So we have shows. We're gonna have shows like once a month.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun because most of the stuff I'm just by myself, like very isolated, and it was weird to like, wow, there's like other people to interact with. What are people?
That is awesome. I know, Marc, you said like before you get into music, making your own music and everything. So can you kind of tell us like what some of your favorite styles or even bands or anything that you're finding your inspiration from to create your music?
Yeah, so I first of all I can't sing, I can't play any instruments. So, but when I used to do a stand up and I had a closing bit and it was where I rapped kind of a cappella. The concept was like, there's no songs about dorky suburban kids, and that was kind of like my song. So that was like the only song I did, but I always wanted to do that. So I made a bunch of political comedy raps. I did one against Trump. I did one against McConnell, and then I did one for Bernie Sanders right near the end when he ended his campaign. And I actually went down on a rally, and I did the song before, and it's funny. My style was of Chuck D, of Public Enemy, and I had no idea he was actually there performing. So I went down there and I shot all the stuff in the video, and I sent it to the campaign, and they wrote back to me. They wrote me a letter, thank you. So that was like a really exciting video. I never had a campaign write back to me before. So that was really fun. But my style is I go between hip hop and then I'm really into electronic music, EDM music. And so I've been just trying to get as creative as possible. I really like that style because, like, to me, there's no rules to it. Like, I layer stuff on top of each other like a mad scientist. So I have this new song I'm working where it's kind of like it's going to be kind of like a short film incorporating with the music, kind of like a spy action movie. So
Wow.
I'm excited to do that. Another one I did actually called Major Tom, where I took like David Bowie. I just dropped him out of Space Oddity, and there's an actual astronaut who went into space who actually sang the song. So I pulled the visuals from that and moved it into the song that I created.
Wow. You are really
Yeah,
creative, I say that.
but
And also, you've been able to
yeah.
be able to like blend comedy with political activism. Now we know a lot of people who feel like politics is very straightforward, very serious, or people take it very seriously. And then people will sometimes kind of differentiate both between the two, comedy and political activism, as two completely separate things. But you blended both. So can you kind of tell me what made you do something like that, and why do you continue to do it?
So I was always interested in comedy and politics and doing like when I started doing stand up, it was people like don't put politics into comedy. You'll upset the crowd. And then after a while, like when it was in 15, 16, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I don't care. At this point, it's crisis critical. So I put on like a fundraiser for like Bernie Sanders, and we did like comedy and hip hop night, and I did a couple of those, and it was fun because if I start like you go on whatever, say Facebook, or start ranting on people zone out. But if you mix in the comedy with it, then people will pay attention. Like I did a couple of the videos, and we were getting like a lot of views, way more than almost anything else. So, and a lot of people are like, wow, this is like really heavy times, but you throwing the comedy into it, it's like a different perspective. Like we need to laugh because, everything that Trump is doing is just, it's exhausting. People are just like worn out, and, like the racism and the economy going down, and just all the negativity of it and the democracy going down. It's just like, you got to be inspired. So for me, I'm a big fan of like the Daily Show or the SNL Weekend Updates and like Colbert and Meyer, like Trevor Noah, all those guys. And it's funny, like before it was just like SNL Weekend Update, I think Bill Maher and the Daily Show, and now all these shows are exploding. The ratings have never been higher, so people are like, they need that. They need that comedy to get through it. So I guess that was kind of my inspiration. And now that like I have the ability just to go shoot it and make it, it's just like anytime I get like upset about something, I'm like, that's a bit. And then we just we just go and make it. So that's been, I think I was talking to you before we got on the air about like the Trump TikTok challenge of his just awful dancing. And it's just so funny to see how many people are involved, or even these young kids when they punked him at one of his rallies, the TikTok, they
Yeah.
got like over 1 million people to get tickets. And it was hilarious that like now the young people who weren't interested in the politics are. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think that is awesome, especially if you found a passion in doing it. So it's awesome. I think it's really cool. And also, it's also like pretty much bring up people's spirits during this COVID-19 situation where things have been kind of depressing and worrisome. So that's awesome. That's really awesome. I'm glad that you're still doing it. But also, I want to talk about like a lot of things that are going on right now in our world that's kind of changing the way we think and the way we feel. You guys tell me, what are some of the causes that you're pretty much passionate about that's still going on right now?
I was always I was always interested in civil rights. Like growing up, I was suburban Philadelphia, so it was just like this homogenous group. And then when I went to college, I wanted to learn about like all the cultures that we never talked about. So I took like Latin American history, women in power, wealth, power, and inequality, Afro American history, history of Israel and Palestine. Like I learned about all these different cultures, and for me, that was such an important thing because so many people don't know about other cultures, and then we have um, this racism or this hatred of other groups for no reason. It's just there's no reason to do that. So I feel like the more you learn about other cultures and learn their perspectives, um, the better we'll be as a society. Because all in all, everyone wants the same thing. Everybody wants, they want to do well, they want a good job, they want to have, a good relationship, and it's all the same. And then now we throw in all these different barriers that should never have been there in the first place. So for me, that's always been a passionate topic of mine. So like I was involved with like the BLM movement, or before like I donated to like Planned Parenthood was like a big thing for me, or Meals on Wheels. Like anybody that was like disenfranchised, I thought you got to help those groups because they need people and to help them out as much as they can or shine light on different causes. So for me, those are like big, hot button, passionate topics.
Definitely, definitely. And I also want to ask you a question for people who are still not into politics yet. There are still, surprisingly, a lot of people that aren't even paying attention to politics or what's going on in our world, or still have that certain level of ignorance when they're continuing to vote and they're not aware of what exactly the definition of a Democrat is, or the definition of a Republican is, and what does it mean, or they're just following their elders or family members, things of that nature. So, if you kind of tell us what is the importance of following and participating in politics?
That's a great question, and I had this topic discussed a lot with a lot of people because I think so many people were just like, oh, I don't want to get into politics because I don't want to be divisive. But the problem is now people are learning that it's so important to be involved because when you're not involved, everyone thought like, oh, the institutions will just kind of run itself. They'll take care of itself. You know, people in charge will look out. And we know that especially with Trump, sorry for everybody, I dislike Trump so much. I think he's done so much destruction to this country and other countries as well. So what happens is when you have an autocrat like Trump, they want people not to follow closely, and then they're dismantling all the institutions. So that's why it's so important to be involved because before you know it, all these rights could be gone. Like we're having Amy Coney Barrett. They're trying to ram her through the Supreme Court. So if it goes through, they might have a conservative majority. That means that people who are LGBTQ, abortion rights, civil rights, or healthcare can be gone. So I call a lot of different senators, volunteer for campaigns, and kind of do everything we can. And now we're learning now, as I was saying with young people, you know, after the gun shooting, it was the young people that stood up and said, that's enough. Like, you guys aren't paying attention. It's our turn. And same with the movements here. With the BLM, it's all the young people who are now active because the older people are failing. So I'm actually super excited that the youth now is saying like enough. Like we're gonna take this, we're gonna empower ourselves. And then I think too with like Kamala Harris got a lot of people just like as a role model say, hey, look, this is something that you know that I can do or a goal that I can do. So I think now we needed somebody like Trump just to ruin everybody idea to get involved. You know, we saw that in 18, the Women's March. So many, and then all these women got into politics who weren't in there before. So as long as we can beat Trump, we have so many more people involved. So to me, that's exciting. And I think we have over 30 million people that voted early already. Last election was like 4 or 5 million at the same point.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's definitely rising. And I'm actually really proud and glad a lot of people are paying attention to what's going on. Some things we don't pay attention to, but when you start to see it coming to the surface and you're watching what's going on in our country, you're like, yeah, this needs to stop. So
How about yourself? Younger
have
Democrat.
I
Do you think,
voted early?
yeah, your age are just getting really more involved?
Yeah, a lot of younger people are getting a lot more involved. I've seen, especially I want to say because I live here in Chicago, is where I see a lot of people are getting involved, being able to going out to protest, whether they're young or older. Especially the younger people are really getting involved into it. I know a lot of the social media is going around right now, so there's a lot of like filming and everything. And some people used to say like it's horrible, like don't film it, don't film it. But yes, it's okay to film it because some of the things that are caught on tape are actually used later on for evidence. So
Yeah,
right.
that is a thing. Like our phones now are just like our way to kind of stop this. And we wouldn't see most of the stuff unless we were taping it.
Exactly. Exactly. Mark, I also want to talk about what are any kind of upcoming projects that you're working on right now that we kind of see maybe floating to the horizon pretty soon.
Yeah, so I created like some little web series. One of them, I created this thing called Truth Hurts. So I created this character who's like this right wing, um, like TV show host, but he's really liberal. So basically, the way he does it is he pushes all the conspiracy theories because a lot of people on that side are like embracing crazy conspiracies. So I'll take a clip, usually what Trump says, and I'll break it down and I'll try to defend it. But by defending it, it just looks like it's totally off the rails because defending the craziness of it. So that was one project. And then I created this one show called the ADD Show, which is like a lot of kind of my own podcasts with sports, entertainment, politics. But I've been really focusing on just into like getting into different topics, like in a long form, maybe like 10 to 15 minutes on a topic, and then using visuals and trying to throw some comedy in like a topic like that, kind of almost like what John Oliver does. You guys ever watch his show? We'll pick a long topic. So I'm trying to get into that, and for me, it's just fun. It's like therapeutic. Usually, I'll just like kind of improv it and just kind of just have fun. So those are some of the projects that I was on. I had two projects before that we had to stop with COVID. One was in the cannabis like show where we had like different musicians and people in entertainment, and we talked and kind of smoked out. And another one was a show called the Happy Hour, where we go to different happy hours, have a couple of drinks, and interview some people. But with COVID, those shows are not really happening at this time. So I had to pick some other topics.
Definitely, but of course, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to pick up soon, maybe after COVID is over. And
Yeah.
I think we get hit. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, eventually, I think people are definitely gonna definitely want to definitely go back to bars and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Mark, about some of the work you do, and also stay connected with you, maybe social media, contact you, anything like that.
Yes, that is another great one. Yeah, if you go to on Instagram, it's at Mark with the C S Gordon. On YouTube, it's Mark Gordon. Please like and subscribe. I'm always putting different content, and if anybody, I'm really big with interactive. So if anybody's like, hey, and you want to do like a sketch or anything, I'm totally down to talk to different people and try to create content. Especially now with it being socially distanced, we're able to shoot remotely. Like I think now's the time to connect and just kind of make things big and global. So and then also on Facebook, Mark Gordon as well, Mark with a C.
Awesome. Perfect. Mark, I really appreciate having you on the show again. I mean, I thought you weren't going to make me laugh, but you definitely did. And I was trying my best to hold it in. But thanks so much for coming on the show, Mark. I
Thanks.
appreciate you.
Thanks. It's always fun being on your show. I appreciate it.